My last relationship ended with her family threatening to call the police on me, her trying to get me fired from my job, chasing me to my car, and maybe threatening to David Lynch me? Oh, bruh.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
After all this, I immediately thought, wow, I'm just like Shrek. And Shrek and Get Out are pretty much the same movie. Are these normal thoughts one should have after this experience? I don't know, but movies are cheaper than therapy. And much like Sammy Fableman, I find them a decent way to cope with the slings, arrows, and turmoils of your personal life. In 2025, interracial relationships still seem to be ripe for the dramatic. This roller coaster of a relationship gave me new profound understanding about other interracial relationships in cinema. Othello, Get Out, but most importantly, our favorite ogre, Shrek. What's up, you freaks? My name is Nico Swan, and I label myself YouTube's most vulnerable film video essayist, and baby am I gonna prove it with this video. Welcome to Shrek, Get Out, and the Shakespearean perils of interracial dating.
When you punish me, you punishing yourself too. Yeah, yes we all make mistakes.
Shrek 1 and 2 are both great displays of interracial relationships in chronological order. We see in the first film, Shrek and Fiona falling in love with each other, and the love is mostly pure as it's just the two of them alone with their supportive donkey. This is carried over to the beginning of Shrek 2, they're on their honeymoon, and their love rings true. Everything continues to go great, and they live happily ever after, right? Well, then everything changes after Shrek 2's opening, which shows the most common danger of interracial relationships. It's not the people in the relationship, it's literally everyone else. Family, friends, the world. See, an interracial relationship doesn't exist in a vacuum. The pure love we see the two people have in the beginning can't be enough. It's subject to critiques from everyone, from people you don't even know, like random groypers on Twitter, to people really close to you, like the people that birthed you, like your parents. It's easy to ignore random trolls and hateful people you don't even know, because though their rhetoric has a negative effect on society, you can easily block and ignore them. But you can't do that with your family, right? Should you? It opens up a whole nother can of worms to the already difficult world of relationships. This inciting incident in Shrek 2 immediately puts an end to the fantastical honeymoon. This is when Fiona's royal parents summon her to her hometown of far, far away to celebrate her marriage.
You are hereby summoned to the kingdom of far, far away in celebration of your marriage, at which time the king will bestow his royal blessing upon you and your,
Now, it's easy to forget that Fiona became an ogre. It was her choice, much like being with Shrek. Her family are human. What happens next is usually the first talk that an interracial couple will have. It usually plays out like this to a T. There's plans for the person of color to meet the parents, and you ask, hey, do your parents know that I'm, and they always act crazy, like that's not a valid question or people aren't prejudiced. And it usually comes from a place of real naivety. It's very sweet, but unrealistic.
We're not going.
What?
I mean, don't you think they might be a bit shocked to see you like this?
Do they know I'm black?
Well, they might be a bit surprised. But they're my parents, Shrek. They love me. And don't worry, they're gonna love you too.
No. Should they?
It seems like something you might wanna, mention.
And this naivety is a real setup for failure, because most parents think their kids are just like them. They think there's no way my daughter could be in love with an ogre, because I could never. And Shrek rightfully voices his concerns about probably not being welcome at the country club.
Yeah, right. Somehow I don't think I'll be welcome at the country club.
Will you stop it? They're not like that.
Mom and Dad, my black boyfriend will be coming up this weekend, and I just don't want you to be shocked that he's a black man.
Now, Shrek does not handle this in the best way, but also Fiona doesn't either. When you're a POC or an ogre, these conversations about parents need to be clear for us to feel safe, because we've been in spaces before where we know we're not wanted, and it doesn't feel great.
You could at least give them a chance.
Oh, to do what? Sharpen their pitchforks?
They'll tell you, oh, it's no problem, and you get there, and it is. So they get to Far, Far Away. It's pretty much Beverly Hills in this fantasy world. Very literally and funnily, my ex was from Beverly Hills, but in Michigan, which is still very rich and very bougie. And like a lot of rich bougie places, it's very liberal on the outside, just like Rose said.
My dad would have voted for Obama a third time if he could have.
And oh my goodness, this is exactly what my ex said. She said, oh, my parents can't be racist. They voted for Obama twice. Ah! I'm getting ahead of myself. Look at how the community reacts. They're shocked to see an ogre. And in some communities in America, if you're black, you might as well be an ogre. And look, now we have a vindicated Shrek. He was right. He has gotten these stairs before, and Fiona is still in denial.
So, you still think this was a good idea?
Of course. Look, Mom and Dad look happy to see us.
Fiona is obviously in love with Shrek, an ogre, and she's only been one herself for a couple of days. So she really can't grasp how the world can hate Shrek just for being an ogre.
We came, we saw them. Now let's go before they light the torches.
They're my parents.
Hello, they locked you in a tower.
And her denial also really comes from the fact that no one wants to really contemplate their family or community being bigoted in any way. That can be a tough thing to unpack, so it's easier to compartmentalize it.
It's a really big problem. Wasn't she supposed to kiss Prince Charming and break the spell?
Well, he's no Prince Charming, but they do.
Good. Now here's our chance. Let's go back inside and pretend we're not home.
Harold, we have to be
Quick, while they're not looking, we can make a run for it.
Shrek!
So then we meet the parents, and one is more accepting than the other, which is usually the case. These type of issues probably won't come up in partners of the same color. And if they do, they probably aren't deal breakers to them, you know? Like the sly comments about, wow, there's so many Brazilians at the gym, might not cause the red lights to go off in your head. And this is why I would call both bigots interchangeably, because yes, one is worse, but the other isn't publicly reprimanding it in any major way, and it's just vibing along to it and enabling it in a way. In my case, it was reversed. The mom was a little more bigoted than the dad, at least on the outside. My ex's mom was from Norway, and y'all, she was so bigoted. Like literally the first time I met this woman, I put my hand out to shake her hand, and she just looked at it in disgust. And then after a while, the dad goes, honey, you're supposed to shake it. You know, pretty much like, girl, we got a dog whistle. We can't be this obvious off the jump. First meeting, crazy.
I'd like you to meet my husband, Shrek.
Then later, much like Fiona, my ex was in denial and said, no, she didn't shake your hand because they don't shake hands in Norway. Bro, one, I looked it up, and yes, they do. Two, she had been living in America for 20 plus years. She knows what a handshake is. Ooh, guys, making this video is so hard because I haven't thought about this shit in years, but reminiscing is causing minor crash outs. Okay, back to Shrek.
Well, it's easy to see where Fiona gets her good looks from.
Shrek tries to make a joke and none of them land. Same thing with my situation, Shrek. Bigots have no sense of humor. Or it could have been a them thing, who knows. Next, we got our next common theme. The inflection point. When the tensions build to such a breaking point and is finally released, a confrontation occurs and your partner can't be naive anymore after. This can be quickly, it can take months, but it usually is some sort of confrontation. But in both of our movies, it happens at dinner. And this Shrek scene is absolutely brilliant. It needs to be hung in the Louvre. This 3-minute scene is the perfect embodiment of the negative interracial experience and is directed so well.
Oh, Fiona, tell us about where you live.
Well, Shrek owns his own land.
In an enchanted forest, abundant in squirrels and cute little duckies and...
What? I know you ain't talking about the Swan.
Donkey.
So the imagery is clear. Shrek is from the hood. Not all black people are from the hood, aka the swamp, but Shrek is. And like a lot of my homies from the hood, Shrek is trying to hype it up, ride for his home, kind of embellish a little bit. But Donkey calls it like it is. And Donkey even being here is already a pain for Shrek. Shrek knows Donkey cannot code switch. Code switching is the voluntary or involuntary switching of the way you speak, depending on the audience. I always say code switching is usually not as intentional. It's like being back in your hometown with your high school friends. You start speaking like you did back then with all the specific slang. Everyone does this to different degrees. Like during a job interview, I probably would never say type shit or vibes, but I would in a casual setting. And to many, a natural black vernacular accent is often seen as unprofessional or off-putting to someone who lives in a place like far, far away. That is something I see all the time. It happens mostly to black folks, but can happen to white Southerners as well. It's when people equate accent to intelligence.
He only asked me once. He did not ask me twice. He asked me my name. I said it loud and clearly. My Asia.
My Asia and her family ordered
2 boxes of pizza and a side of wings.
Looked up at the order board to see how long it would take and then saw this. The N-word.
You hear them say things like, oh, he can't even say ask properly, or he can't say ambulance right, or he can't even speak properly. It's always so strange to me because people don't do this to any other accent. No one ever talks about a British person saying garage instead of garage and saying, oh, that person's so improper. It's only black vernacular that's policed in that certain way. As you can hear, I probably don't have the strongest black accent, so usually my speech doesn't change too much, but like all other accents, there's levels to strength, which can throw people off. Like when I was a kid, I lived in the hood. Teachers would always say, Nico, you talk so proper, you're so well spoken, which I was fond of at the time, but as I've gotten older, it's kind of giving me the ick. Like, because I have a certain accent, it's proper, This is like when someone thinks a British person is naturally smart because they're British. The two don't correlate. Just listen to Ryan Coogler.
It's an IMAX film 15 perf format. And once you expose the image on that, you get a ratio of 1:43 to 1. So
I know a ton of very intelligent people with strong accents and still have a way with words and can put them together in a captivating way. When I moved to the suburbs, I realized that though I didn't have a strong black accent, they could still tell I had one. Kids would make fun of me saying, why do you say calculator like that? Why do you say ax instead of ask? That shit drove me crazy, especially because at the time it was too late. I had been grown for too long. I couldn't just change my accent and the comments persisted. So what does all this have to do with Donkey? Well, Donkey is himself 100% of the time. For better or for worse, this stresses Shrek out in the beginning as he asks,
oh, for 5 minutes. Could you not be yourself? For 5 minutes!
And the answer is no. Shrek, knowing that Donkey is unabashedly himself, will make it impossible for him to code switch and assimilate in any way, causing him to embarrass Shrek in some way. And Donkey does it here by talking about the reality of the swamp.
I know you ain't talking about the swamp.
Donkey.
An ogre from a swamp. Oh, how original.
King Harold says an ogre from a swamp. How stereotypical. He might as well be saying a nigga from the hood, which is a main factor to prejudice. Classism. Boy, it's almost more potent than the actual racism. After a while, an ogre may grow up in far, far away. He might go to the same schools, learns to act the same way, and assimilate. But the parents see an ogre from Detroit and they immediately start making assumptions. Even you guys watching, I'm sure you're not racist, but even you guys, if I say Detroit, negative images start appearing in your head, and If that's what's popping in your head, just imagine what an actual bigot is thinking.
Swan. Oh, how original.
Well, I suppose that would be a fine place to raise the children.
This just speaks for itself. Are you gonna raise your kids in the ghetto or here in Far, Far Away, where they can be token? I remember my ex had one token black friend. Because as a retired token, sometimes you can't talk about certain struggles because they will get downplayed and you have to let a sensitive jokes just be let go.
All right. So tonight after this really good meal, you know, I want to go to the movies, right, to see Taxi Driver, which is like my favorite movie, I think. So I went to this movie on 48th and 8th, this theater. And then when I got there, I put my $10 in the window. The lady disappeared for a minute and came back, gave me back my $10 and said, "No music, man, this is serious."
It's a mistake.
Don't look at your legs. So I was like denied entrance to a movie theater, and you know.
Why?
Why?
Which is, they said it was my appearance, you know, that I looked like a bum, you know. But it never happened to me before. I just sort of like.
Don't go to that movie theater.
So this is why I'm here now, right? This is my appeal to boycott the Hollywood Twin Cinema, which is, they show good movies, but after that, you know.
Everyone wants someone to prohibit something, you know. There's always like a restaurant they serve the coffee wrong or something, or someone couldn't use the men's room and stuff.
Oh, this was a sleazy movie theater.
Well, but I mean, if we boycotted everything everyone wanted to boycott, you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go on the buses. You couldn't take a taxi.
Well, you couldn't take a
even go to the
taxi
fucking
because how many times?
Underground, or go to a restaurant for Christ's sake.
What?
Glenn, this is what you know. This is what happens in New York. It's just widespread now.
Hello? Hello?
Chris.
What?
Let me ask you something. This is really something this week. How did you get a buckwheat to appear this week? I thought he was dead. Wasn't he?
Hello? Hello? What?
No,
Yes.
it really is something, though. What, are you going to get alfalfa next week with Spanky, too, or what?
Yeah, we're making a comeback.
Hey, bro, let me ask you something. Didn't you snatch my chain last week on the subway? Huh?
Ford House. My name is Nico Swan, and we're so happy to have you here. As we have Josephine here, the only daughter of Edsel and Eleanor Ford, more of a French style, which Eleanor loved. We have very prominent French artists here as well. Renoir, two says.
When I was 12, like a lot of other 12-year-olds, I played a crap ton of Call of Duty. And I'm sure you know where this is going. My clan, who I guess in theory was supposed to be my friends, was letting that N-word fly like the 4th of July. So I'm getting called it by the enemy team and my own team, and I'm not a gamer anymore, guys. Much like Shrek expressing concerns in the beginning, these concerns are handled terribly.
Don't go to that movie theater.
I remember talking to my ex about feeling bad that people looked at me negatively and made negative comments about my natural hair. She said, why not just get a haircut? Quick, simple fix. Just get a haircut. Just get a haircut. Haircut. Cut off. See, this is how someone who's moderate on certain issues solves a very complex problem. You're bleeding from your neck? Here's a Band-Aid. The water pipes are corrupted? Here's a bottle of water. You got stage 4 cancer? Here's chicken noodle soup. Their instinct is a quick, simple fix that doesn't even put a dent in a deeply rooted problem that spreads like a virus.
I just started eating.
Harold! What's that supposed to mean?
Dad, it's great, okay?
Well, for his type, yes.
My type? I gotta go to the bathroom.
Then we got King Harold, more microaggressions. This is usually how it is. The shit is usually not on the surface and will drive you crazy because you start gaslighting yourself, you know? You start thinking, maybe I'm looking at this too deep, taking things too personal. Not everything's about race. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I have this makeup on. This is why I have this makeup on, because this instinct is good to have for the most part so you don't drive yourself crazy. But after a while, it turns you into quite literally a fucking clown. I know me especially, I give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I never assume ill will, so every passive aggressive comment or action will have me coping like, maybe they don't shake hands in Norway.
Well, I suppose the grandchildren I could expect from you would be...
Ogres. Yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Right, Harold?
Then he asks this crazy question, which is hilarious. It's very reminiscent to when Prince Harry married Meghan Markle. and people in the royal family were worried about how dark their baby could turn out. Which is funny as hell, but very stupid because look at this woman. She's mixed and looks like that. How dark did they think it could get? Pasty plus light olive tone equals...
I'm half black. Ain't no such thing as half black. You don't mix white milk with chocolate milk and get half chocolate milk. When you ever see half chocolate milk? What kind of milk is this? It's half chocolate. Ain't no such thing as half chocolate. It's either chocolate or it ain't.
This is similar, not to the ex I've been talking about, but another whose grandma asked how dark our babies could get, which I thought was weird at the time. But after Nazi X, I have a newfound respect for that sweet old woman because her curiosity and heart was in the right place. It's always interesting to me when people obsess over what their grandchildren will look like. This is something every race does, even my family. It's strange because the grandkid will have 25% of your DNA regardless. That's still your grandkid, you deadbeat. And so what if it has olive skin? What if it looks like you along with different skin? Or it looks nothing like you and has your skin? It could look only like the other side of the family.
Oh, no! No, of course not. That is assuming you don't eat your own young.
Dad!
Harold making stereotypes again. And y'all, this stereotype was the catalyst of what caused my inflection point and why my ex's family threatened to have me arrested. Wait, do you guys want the tea? I'll tell you a little bit more. I don't want this video to be only about that, so I'll paraphrase as quickly as possible and skip to this point if you don't care. So, I hired my ex to help me edit one of my films. I said I'll give you $1,000 and we'll use your laptop because mine had just broke at the time. And we'll get to hang together, great. So it's a semi-long process and she just graduated film school. So she's not used to working, I guess, I don't know. But halfway through, she wants to stop. She's complaining. Me being the supportive BF I was like, no worry, boo. I'll finish editing myself. You'll still get the 1K, no worries. Then we're in a weird predicament where the pressures from her already passive-aggressive racist orbit was just too much for me, and we broke up. And it was so strange because like I would never see these people, but like they would leave like mean comments on my videos like ew, or like anytime she posts us they'd be like ew, and it's just like it just really like annoyed me. Like it's like everyone in your life like just praying on your downfall. It's just not fun. But we were still friendly, we still got along, and so I was still, we would still edit from time to time. Fast forward, and the film is a week from being finished. I'm waiting on the sound mix from the sound engineer. And at this point, she's getting antsy. She's like, what's taking the sound mixer so long? Like, are you really gonna be finished in a week? And just keep like, she seemed kind of like annoyed, out of nowhere. And I told her, finally got locked from the sound engineer. It's gonna be done in a week. It's set in stone. Eventually she's like upset that it's gonna take a longer week. And like, mind you, she has another laptop at this point. So that's not really why. I don't really know where this came from. But I told her like, I guess if you really want your laptop back, like I give it back, but the film is due in a week. Like we have harsh deadlines. I'm gonna have to hire someone else to help me, finish it on time. And we're already on a very tight budget at this point. This is the part that relates to Shrek. Stereotypes. She has two people in her ear, her very stupid friend who's telling her, he's not gonna give you the money. He's a scammer. He's stealing your laptop and not going to give you the money. Yeah. I fabricated a whole film for a 2013 MacBook Pro. No, a company gave me $30,000 just so I can go shoot a whole film and then proceed to edit it on a 2013 MacBook Pro. So I could steal it. That was the plan. You got me. It was the long game, baby. And this friend was on the brain-rotted alt-right pipeline at this point. So like a brainworm, the stereotype scenarios was just flowing through her head like the river Styx. And the other person in my ex's ear was her sister. And she was just like openly racist. Like not in like the modern, like underneath the sheets kind of way, like just in an open way. I've come to discover that this happens with split belief parents. Sometimes one takes after the bigot and the other takes after the coward who doesn't clearly stand against the bigotry. Her sister said things like, I don't want to see the Little Mermaid because she's black. It's impossible for a mythological mermaid to be black. She said, how can you find the weekend attractive? Black people are so ugly. which is crazy because her Aryan ass was so self-conscious about her face, she covered it in half of her photos. All her Instagram photos, half of it's covered. Okay, Nico, don't crash out. Don't crash out. So after this, then I get 4 texts from numbers I've never texted before. 3 says something of the sorts: hi, I'm blank sister / mom. If you don't give her her laptop and the money, then we're gonna call the police on you. And another number that didn't give a name said, do you know what happens to black men when they break the law? ... The police take care of them. Gun emojis. And I'm thinking just at this point, like, where's all this coming from? Like, completely out of nowhere. And the same friend who worked with us was cussing me out and following me into my car and threatening to get me fired. And here's the real brilliant part. She started crying. Guys, I cannot make this up. The person wrongfully calling me a thief, threatening to get me arrested, maybe sent this hateful message, is crying? What? Yeah, so that's my inflection point. We're gonna quickly switch to Get Out. And it's really funny because the fantastical animated world of Shrek has a more realistic display of interracial relationship than Get Out does. But we have similar thematic beats we already mentioned. The honeymoon period, concerns about meeting parents. One thing that Get Out does portray maybe more realistically is how low-key the prejudice is.
Not bad. So, is it true? Is it better?
Wow.
This was closer to my situation. Obviously before the end. I'm not secretly a 78-year-old white man, no matter how much I love Pink Floyd.
Taking away the moments that make up a dull day.
So the similarity is that nothing seems bad. They're nice. They would have voted for Obama a 3rd time. Yeah, they awkwardly say things like,
so how long has this been going on, this thing?
The average Joe can't sense the undertones. Then we got a little mini inflection point. It starts with Rose's drunk brother. And oh my God, this is literally my life. The more obviously prejudiced sibling that gives our character Chris some pause.
With your frame and your genetic makeup, if you really pushed your body, you'd be a f***ing beast.
Then we got the major inflection point. It starts at this very waspy party where Chris meets the only other black person there. But Chris is soon freaked out by him. He can tell culturally there's no black in him, like at all. Like I said, there's strengths and levels. It's not just because Logan has a waspy accent, it's everything. Non-black people can easily simplify this, but it's deeper. Someone having no cultural clues of blackness isn't just because someone doesn't like rap or basketball or whatever. The hood and black people in totality are diverse. There's nerds, there's the affluent, and even though someone isn't what you consider stereotypically black, we can still find hints of a connection to blackness somewhere in there. In Logan, there's none. Not even adopted by Caucasian hint. Chris calls to tell his friend Rod about it. Rod is a TSA agent who, much like Donkey, is unapologetically himself.
I don't know if you know this, white people love making people sex slaves and shit.
Which, in Donkey's case, can make him seem dumb. But in Rod's case, it makes him the smartest character in the movie.
Yo, and it's the black people out here too. It's like all of them miss the movement.
Because they probably hypnotized.
Look, bruh, all I'm doing is connecting the dots. I'm taking what you presented to me, okay? I'm gonna tell you this. I think that mom is putting everybody in a trance and she f***ing the shit out of them.
Since he's being unapologetically himself and not code switching, it clears his mind to see reality. He's not gaslighting himself to normalize situations. Rod wouldn't call Shrek's swamp an enchanted forest. And Rod would say, Nico, you're being stupid. Of course the Norwegians shake hands. And something about the funniest characters not being clowns, so to speak, is poetically beautiful. And reminds me of the classic Shakespearean fool, who is the only character that is allowed to see things as they are and humorously tell the truth. The fool is the audience's window.
All that follow their noses are led by their eyes, but blind men. And there's not a nose among 20 but can smell him that's stinking. When a wise man gives thee better counsel, give me mine again. I would have none but knaves follow it, since a fool gives it.
Rod rightfully tells Chris the situation is weird and to take pictures. And so Chris takes a picture of this guy with the flash on, and it's like a light switch is flipped in Logan's head. And he becomes a different person. and tells Chris to
get out.
He pleads for him to leave this house, and though scared, Chris immediately starts to recognize the blackness in Logan, almost like he's a different person now. Logan is quickly restrained, and the neurosurgeon dad chalks it up to just a seizure. They completely gaslight Chris, and Chris had a cousin who got seizures, so he knows he's not crazy. He sends a photo to Rod, and Rod recognizes him as Andre, a dude from Brooklyn, who went missing. He surmises they're turning black people into sex slaves.
Sex slave! Oh shit!
Chris, you gotta get the fuck up out of there, man. You in some eye wide shut situation. Leave, motherfucker.
Which is not far off. He tells Chris that he needs to get out of there. And at the end of this inflection point, a conversation is had. This is where we see if a relationship has wings or not. Chris tells Rose he wants to leave, and she agrees.
Get your coat, dear. We're leaving.
What?
Leaving? I don't want to leave.
When did you decide this?
Shortly after arriving.
This sucks. Let's go home. I'll make something up.
I love you.
And their interracial relationship passes the first test. Right? Wrong. It's a trap. The relationship fails, you as a human fails, self-respect fails, all that. But before this happens, Chris discovers something which is his downfall, his last gaslight to himself. I'm going to call this the sign so clear you're a clown if you don't adhere it. Because earlier we hear Rose say,
"I was the first black guy you ever dated."
Yeah, so.
Then we see Chris go through a box in Rose's closet full of pictures of past lovers, all black, some we've seen in the house. Now, if this was Rod, he would say, hell no. This is how they lure us to be sex slaves and got us down here. But Chris loves her and gives one last benefit of the doubt. A clown move that seems to lead to his demise. I always laugh when people overanalyze and misanalyze movies, but I also think some deeper context can be accidental, which I think Jordan Peele does here. And that deeper context is the Snow Bunny crisis. Hey guys. The Snow Bunny crisis.
I'm working on a Snow Bunny crisis, self-treatment manual for black men to help brothers who are suffering with the Snow Bunny crisis to free themselves from the mayonnaise.
I love you, BBC. I love you.
White girl's more better.
Okay, yo.
Especially the fake time.
That was on top.
Snow Bunny. Yeah, the word's pod.
Pod. Yo, hey, say that video again. Say it one more time, but say it slow.
Pod. P-A-W-G. That is white girls.
That's what I'm talking about.
Dirty, nasty.
The goddamn NBA is a suspect.
As soon as I said that, Mama or y'all blew my cell phone off the stand.
Whew. The Snow Bunny crisis done scared my cat. I repeat, the Snow Bunny crisis, the Snow Bunny mind virus done scared my cat. Just saying Snow Bunny crisis out loud sounds crazy. It sounds funny. The Snow Bunny crisis is a phenomenon of white women who fetishize black men, saying they only date them, and then there's black men who do the same, vice versa. Often put white women on a higher pedestal whilst putting down black women by leaning into stereotypes, calling them ghetto, angry, non-supportive, or even associating them with a lower class, which thankfully couldn't be farther from me. Because you need deep-rooted lack of self-respect and low brainwaves to let yourself get fetishized. In that way, though stupidly blinded by love, I've never been that much of a clown. We're going to focus on the female side of it because of what we see in Rose's little box. This fetishization is often detrimental. Not only does it inaccurately call white men weak and associate black men into some weird hyper-masculine alpha, it also dehumanizes them, more keen to a show animal than a person. This BBC-ification of love separates the physical form from the eternal, more of a sex slave than a spiritual partner. Like Rose, so you've only dated black people, but have you engaged with the history of black America, current and past struggles? And the answer usually is no.
Choose a player to ding dong ditch, but they have to kick the door hardest. All right, so we should go do that, y'all.
In this neighborhood, bro, and then we get arrested, dog. Get arrested, dog, attempted burglary. Like, I ain't, you know, we black. It ain't gonna look good.
You're thinking way too deep into it.
I'm saying, but that's the problems that we be going through, man. This Real out here, you feel me?
Next, you see how boring they are?
The man from Kansas who pleaded guilty to shooting a black teen who rang the wrong doorbell.
The admiration usually ends at the physical form, and if it doesn't, it usually delves into stereotypes of someone wanting a thug or this or whatever that, or certain weird archetypes. This can cause a weird paradox for these people's mixed black children who have to go with a white parent that is in some ways racist and disconnects their black skin from the prejudice society that they might find themselves in, which sucks for the kid because the kid doesn't live in a bubble and clearly from a young age can see how their skin can affect much in how the world interacts with them. And they have no one to talk to about these feelings because they have one parent who never engaged with this reality and another parent who willingly became disconnected from it and chose a partner to help them ignorantly disconnect from it farther. I knew so many mixed kids who told me about this struggle and who wish they would rather not be born at all because of this. Not because they're mixed, but because of their ignorant parents. The iconic scene of Chris going through the box reminds me of what Shrek does after the dinner fight, looking through his partner's things after the inflection point. After the inflection point, the POC is usually trying to find some form of confirmation of where his partner's headspace is at and how to proceed going forward, if to proceed at all. So whilst going through Fiona's diary while she's asleep, he sees that she talks about Prince Charming, the man that the parents wanted to save her. He's the conventional choice. He's blonde, conventionally handsome. He's from the same place, far, far away. This makes Shrek self-conscious, and he leaves to see if he can change from being an ogre and truly assimilate. Bro, once again, I'm literally Shrek because I read my ex's diary, not while she was asleep, but she willingly gave it to me so I can know more about her. And why I find out she dated a Confederate. Yes, bro, flags, robe, everything. Oh my goodness. And guys, let's all join in the victim shaming here. I'll approve of it. Cause why I stayed after that, I don't know. The red flags couldn't have flashed hard enough. Yeah, I know. My frontal lobe wasn't developed yet, guys. I was like 22 or something. I don't know. Guys, love blinds for real, okay? Please don't believe me too much, because I'm sure you could think of something you turned a blind eye to because you were blinded by love.
It only takes a little bit of white brainwash to activate the coon chip in the average Negro.
It was a real whirlwind because she was like, I was a different person 7 months ago at the big age of 23. And bro, all her friends made me feel insane. You would have thought I was the Confederate the way they were talking about me. They said, Nico's so sensitive. Why would he be upset about something you did in your past? That's not fair. What? This is why I have disdain for a good chunk of people from Beverly Hills, Michigan. To this day, I need a crash out meter because every second my eyes start twitching and I'm so close. So Shrek ventures off to change, and just like me, no matter how hard he tries, he can't really. I've been talking a lot about my perspective and the POC perspective, but I want to talk about it from Fiona's for a second. She deserves a lot of grace, unlike Rose and my ex. Fiona is in love with Shrek, and she can't help that. She probably genuinely didn't know her parents had this bigoted view towards ogres. And she also can't help who her parents are. It can't be undone. Not talking to your parents ever again because of their bigoted views isn't the most ideal. And a POC person or an ogre can think this is a simple fix when they're caught up in their emotions. I know I have, thinking, these people will hate my guts no matter what I do. They shouldn't be in your life if they think this way. This is similar to when I talked about putting a band-aid on a broken arm. That's not a real fix, and simplifies the issue. Shrek and his emotions doesn't give Fiona a lot of time to process this, and leaves without communicating.
It is in his nature to be, well, a bit of a brute.
Him? You know, you didn't exactly roll out the welcome wagon.
Harold's upset because Fiona didn't pick the choice he wanted, someone he thought should look like the Prince of Far, Far Away, and it's all about what he wants and not Fiona. And the same thing was poignant in my relationship. While we were dating, her friends and family would always try to set her up with other guys, saying, look at him, he's cute, he's from a good family, and yes, they all look like this. There's some things you could like turn a blind eye to, like racism aside, like that's just so disrespectful. Like that's so like nastily disrespectful, not only to me, but it was also weird and even stranger that she told me about these situations, because like what the hell am I supposed to do with that info?
Well, what did you expect? I mean, look at what he's done to you.
Shrek loves me for who I am. I would think you'd be happy for me.
Darling, I'm just thinking about what's best for you. Maybe you should do the same.
Fiona sees the selfishness of her father and she finally pushes back, causing a gigantic fight. And at the end, Fiona storms off, and after that, the bigotry of her parents is undeniable, and she has come to grips with it. Alright, now back to Shrek. Shrek is doing everything in his power to change himself. Even skin whitening bleach, magic. And baby, even magic can't cure interracial troubles. It's hard work.
It was a mistake to bring Shrek here. I'm gonna go out and find him. And then we're gonna go back to the swamp where we belong.
Fiona finally says bringing Shrek here was a mistake. It's her real come to Jesus moment. And this is a key moment for a successful interracial relationship. It's the moment us POC, ogres, or decent smart people realize this relationship can work. I know it sounds crazy, but something as easy as an inner reflection and processing can make or break this type of relationship. Fiona actively thinks and gets rid of her ignorance.
I've made changes for you, Shrek. Think about that.
Shrek's emotional clown ass doesn't realize this and steals a potion to make him more beautiful. Like insert black person of power, changing themselves to fit in better. Donkey literally becomes white. Donkey literally becomes white. The long-standing color of beauty and purity. Shrek becomes a white man. And notice, everyone in Far, Far Away immediately starts treating them better. Immediately smiling, looking them in the eye, shaking their hands. You might have been thinking this whole time, Nico's tripping, he's overanalyzing Shrek. And all I have to say to that is,
White Bronco heading east into the forest, requesting backup.
Police brutality! Police brutality! I have to talk to Princess Fiona!
Shrek realizes that even though he changes his physical appearance, he's still an ogre on the inside. He sees Fiona being romantic with Prince Charming and thinks, maybe it's for the best, because if her entire orbit are telling you that you're not right for her, maybe they're right. Which exactly in my situation put the final nail in the coffin. I told my ex, I don't think we should date. Literally every person in your life thinks the same. And she said I was silly for letting people outside of the relationship influence my decision. But it wasn't just them. This relates to all of us. You aren't just yourself. You are your friends, your family. You're who you're surrounding yourself with. And you're what you advocate for. And if your orbit thinks one way and you don't fight back against it, then it consumes you. And I was right, because it eventually did. But Shrek was not right. He was misled. Fiona did push back against her family. She did inner reflect. She does love Shrek and is willing to do the work and fight for the relationship. Harold tricks the couple by convincing Fiona that Prince Charming actually is Shrek. But Fiona notices he doesn't fart like Shrek, talk like him, have his values, or act like him.
Find you like this new Shrek.
But it's the old one I fell in love with, Dad. I'd give anything to have him back.
This is absolutely brilliant cinema because it shows how Fiona is very different from Rose or Snow Bunnies. She doesn't fetishize Shrek because he's an ogre. She likes him for who he is and what he values. And that's why she's skeptical of Prince Charming's fake Shrek. The love is not there. Then something happens that might seem unexpected, a point most relationships don't get to, but shows how fighting for anything you believe in is worth it. Harold shows what happens after the battle and reflection period.
I told you, ogres don't live happily ever after!
Harold shows the instinctual human reaction or good parent instinct of realizing what's best for your daughter and doing what you can to support it. In the end, there needs to be sacrifice, and Harold does that so Shrek and Fiona could be themselves. And their relationship successfully survives. They love free and have a sustainable interracial relationship. I can't say the same for my brother Chris. He survives, but Rose's wicked ass is fortunately taken from this earth.
Hey, you still look like a noble steed to me.
We got an example of successful interracial turmoil and semi-successful. What about one where it causes end for both of them? To do that, we're gonna take a trip in history to the OGs of interracial tales. One of the earliest stories of an interracial relationship comes from the Hebrew Bible, where Moses marries an Ethiopian. And Jesus, even in the year 0, it's controversial. Moses got complaints from his brother and sister for marrying an African, but canonically, God does not stand with racism and struck Moses' sister with leprosy, turning her white for 7 days. Not white in the good sense either. We see an interracial relationship with the Greek mythology of Perseus and Andromeda, another Ethiopian. Ethiopians love the swirl, but this could stem from them being one of the rare African kingdoms to accumulate wealth and power and never be conquered.
Black women are beautiful, but let me refocus. Black women are beautiful, but let me refocus.
In ancient times, marrying outside of your race was less controversial than marrying outside of your class. Alexander the Great married a Persian woman. Believe it or not, the ancient times were somewhat more progressive on the issue than you would think, especially during the heights of the Roman and Byzantine Empire. These empires were actively multicultural to spread their influence. This shows a juxtaposition and shift to modern culture, as before these empires, marrying outside of your tribe was looked down upon, which is a funny, inbred way of thinking. If you want the smartest, healthiest society, probably don't marry your second cousin neighbor. There are dozens of examples from the Roman Empire, so let's jump to the most famous early historical story of an interracial relationship. To do that, let's take a trip to 1500s Elizabethan era London, one of the most culturally diverse places in the world. I know this might surprise you, but yes, it was way more culturally diverse than you might naturally think. You got people from all over the world, Moors from Africa. We know this because in 1596, Queen Elizabeth made a proclamation to eradicate them from England. There were South Asians from constant trade with the Ottoman Empire. London had a small Jewish population that were secret because they were officially banned from England in 1202. There were immigrants from all over Europe who could assimilate better, like the Dutch, Flemish, and French, and all these people fled religious persecution, working as weavers, artists, and merchants. But most of the cultural diversity came from people coming from other parts of the British Empire and England, all with their own unique cultures, no matter how close to one another they may have been. To them, London was a hub. People from Wales, Ireland, Manchester, York, Bristol, and Stratford-upon-Avon, where we meet our GOAT and patron of the channel, William Shakespeare.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Oh, thou art more lovely and more temperate.
Throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends.
All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
Francis hour upon the stage, and then is heard no more.
This is madness, yet there is method in it.
It's no secret I love Shakespeare. I have almost mentioned him in every video, but does he love me? Is Shakespeare racist? Somewhat silly question in a modern context, but we know a lot about how Shakespeare used race. He used the multicultural London to his advantage, and probably met tons of unique background people to influence his stories. He often wrote characters set in different locations, and sometimes different ethnicities to play with race and perspective. Now, when he sets a story in Venice or Denmark, it's usually not too much to it, and the characters can very well be seen as British folk, but When he plays a character in a world that's clearly an other or a more in the same setting, then it becomes different and he's saying something. This is what makes Shakespeare the best, because he follows the golden rule of writing. He humanizes his characters no matter how evil or problematic. Yes, this 1500s British man wrote POC characters with more care than the average Hollywood writer trying the same. They definitely aren't perfect as it was 1500s London, but you can feel the sense of effort that makes all the difference. He humanizes Jewish folks in The Merchant of Venice and tackles anti-Semitism. In Titus Andronicus, we have the character of Aaron the Moor, which I won't talk too long about, so this already long video isn't too long, but Aaron the Moor is evil. He influences senseless murder and rape, and you might think, oh, this is racist. What's more racist is the magical Negro trope of every black character being instantly perfectly morally good and not a single flaw in their bones. Aaron isn't like that. He's a former slave who constantly gets racist comments, calling him a moral savage and a barbarian just because he's a Moor. And this almost feeds into his already crazy psyche. He thinks if everyone calls me the utmost evil, then I should prove them right. And I have to say, I relate to him. Even though he's pure evil in this story, never in my life have I wanted to prove a racist wrong. Like, I've had white folks say, Nico, most black people are a certain way. You're one of the good ones. And that shit not only made me want to vomit, but it also made me quickly think, how can I make this person think I'm not one of the good ones?
What happened to the original plot of the movie?
Because I don't want to be this person's weird reason for not being racist. And this is the longest in the video I haven't talked about my ex, but this is how I felt in the relationship. So many people telling you you're one thing, you start to believe them. Nico was ugly. Nico isn't right for you. He isn't respectful. Why prove them wrong for making negative assumptions? Fuck them. Anyways, bad comparison, because like I said, Aaron is pure evil. For the most part, he does save his mixed son's life, who he has with the queen. And guys, listen up. This is symmetry in motion. It's absolute cinema. It's a mirror to modern times. Aaron's internalized all the racism and hates himself. And Tamara sees his blackness as a sin, but they have a kid together. Just like that, Shakespeare's a genius again. Queen Tamara at one point even tries to kill their mixed baby. Guys, remember when I said mixed kids in certain situations often feel a certain way? Tamara sleeps with Aaron for pleasure, but that's it. She lets her other sons call the mixed baby a thick-lipped slave and calls the baby a stain. And it shows really the dangers of like when love doesn't leave the physical form. It doesn't enter the eternal. It doesn't become spiritual. It doesn't become philosophical. It becomes bastardization. Okay, I said I wouldn't talk about Titus Andronicus for too long, so let's go to Shakespeare's most famous example of an interracial relationship. Othello, the Moor of Venice. Othello and Desdemona gets to see instantly how their love doesn't exist in a vacuum. They secretly get married in the middle of the night and instantly get snitched on. I was watching the channel Shakespeare play-by-play and they were talking about Othello, and they do a great job highlighting how in the very beginning, the first thing we see is Iago, and it's him talking about Othello. He calls him a savage, a thief, and like makes him seem like a scoundrel, you know, just stealing this woman, and he's doing it for power, and just like kind of paints him in every negative light you can think of, every stereotype.
Mark his Moorship's ensign.
Oh, by heaven, I rather would have been his hangman.
Awake, sir! Thieves! Look, you have daughter, you bad! Thieves! One old black ram is topping your white ewe!
What profane wretch art thou?
I am one, sire, that comes to tell you your daughter and the Moor are now making the beast with two backs!
So art a villain!
And then we immediately meet Othello, and he's the opposite of all those things. He's worldly, he's knowledgeable, he's passionate, he's soulful, he speaks with so much passion, and you can see why Desdemona would love him.
The goodness of the night upon you, friends.
That's the crazy thing about stereotypes. It's just like, it all exists up here. It's nothing in the physical, nothing rational. And this was exactly my situation. Like, based off everything I told you, you probably thought I met these friends and family a lot. I kid you not, I met these people no more than once. No more than once. And stereotypes and preconceptions came before and after the meeting. It's like all up here. Like nothing I've actually done. Nothing I actually did. Nothing Othello did. It's all exist in the Fugazi land. This secret union gets brought up in the court from Desdemona's father, but luckily for Othello, he's treated with more grace. He's not some slave or countryman. He's in a position of power as a high-ranking army general, which grants him some privileges other black men may not be granted, including white women. Guys, nothing's new and history always repeats itself.
Why do you need white man paperwork?
Got a Dr. Umar coon check. I gotta check the coons. I gotta do a coon analysis and a coon screening.
So because of this status, the Duke approves of the union, though he does have a little microaggression, but much like my decent ex's grandma, it comes from a good place. He says, "Your son-in-law hath found no fairer than black.
Virtue, no delighted beauty like. Your son-in-law is far more fair than black."
Pretty much saying Othello's one of the good ones. Yes, he's black on the outside, but on the inside, he's good and pure and white. Yuck. Desdemona leans more on the Fiona side of the scale than the Rose side of Snow Bunny allegations. Being a senator's daughter, she got a lot of potential suitors who were white, and she didn't like any of them. She liked Othello because of his adventurous past and the way he told stories. Not because of a weird Moor fetish, but because she liked Othello the man. In Act 1, Scene 3, she says, "I saw Othello's visage in his mind."
I saw Othello's visage in his mind, and to his honors and his valiant parts did I my soul.
Though married, her former suitors still feel entitled to her. Remember when me and my ex were dating and her family were still pitching her newer guys? So, one of Desdemona's former suitors is Rodrigo.
Desdemona, I will incontinently drown myself.
If thou dost, I shall never love thee after.
It is silliness to live, when to live is a torment.
It cannot be! 'Tis merely a lust of the blood and a permission of the will. Come, be a man. Drown thyself.
And he is just crashing out. He's talking about killing himself because his girl's with a black man. His friend Iago tells him to chill out and say they won't last, which is one of the earliest racist tropes of black men leaving white women as single mothers. Don't watch too much porn, it can turn you into a weird racist Twitter user. There's also a racist trope that white women who date black men are just girls that no respectful white men would go after. So they have to go to the least desirable option, which it's like, that's like the cope is crazy. The cope, like she's like the senator's daughter, like the cope is crazy. Same with like insert celebrity here. You think this celebrity couldn't get any person they want? Come on, anything up there? McFly, anything flying up there? Anything flying up there? So Iago plays into this. He calls Othello the second choice, and calling himself and Rodrigo's complexion as natural.
It cannot be that Desdemona should long continue her love to the Moor. When she is sated with his body, she will find the error of her choice. She must have change, she must. If sanctimony and a frail vow betwixt an erring barbarian and a super subtle Venetian be not too hard for my wits and all the tribe of hell.
But Iago's racism is different and more from a jealous nature. Iago doesn't think Othello deserved to be promoted as general and thinks himself should have gotten the job.
I hate the Moor, and to plume up my will in double knavery.
We see this nowadays with the retoolification of the term DEI. Anything you don't like is DEI. A black person with any job you think they aren't smart enough to have is DEI. Someone with 2 master's degrees and a doctorate is DEI. Me, I have a channel, I'm DEI. No person of color can ever be qualified on their own merit, which is interesting in Othello's case, because for a Moor in Venice to even get close to getting the title of general, he probably had to work 10 times as hard to be in that position, be that much more exceptional. But alas, Iago thinks he's more deserving because he has the natural complexion. Iago immediately associates Othello with stereotypes, calling him a thief, associating him with the devil. Iago then masterminds a way to not only get Rodrigo, the girl he wants, but ascend to Othello's general position. He plants rumors of cheating, and the jealousy eats Othello alive. Like, look at this man. Just the thought of his girl cheating is literally sending his ass into epilepsy. Just like me, for real. Othello wants her to confess, but doesn't want to accuse directly. And I felt that. Very modern. No one wants to accuse their partner, but the unspoken delusion can drive them crazy. The jealousy sweeps through Othello's body like a plague, causing him to do a lot of stupid emotional things. One of the most shocking things he does is
Devil!
put his hands on his white Venetian wife of high social class. Brother, the black male snow bunny hunters who degrade black women and view snow bunnies as a trophy to indicate their higher class often forget where their status truly stands.
I'm sorry, brother, but you are in the book of Negroes.
I don't want to make it the struggle Olympics of misogyny versus racism, because I think it's more complicated than that. But we have seen time and time again successful black men getting put in a bubble, forgetting where they come from and how they are perceived, and then they easily put their hands on a woman. They're quickly reminded of where they stand.
Didn't want to get with a white woman because I was scared she might have me running down the street like Jonathan Majors. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit ass down in 2 weekends.
This isn't to say that these men aren't pieces of shit and don't deserve to be reprimanded, because they are pieces of shit and deserve to be reprimanded. I just think about how the reaction highlights the societal hierarchy and the way the media talks about Jonathan Majors in one light and don't talk about Brad Pitt and Jeremy Renner in the same light. So in his craze, Othello nefariously kills his wife. But Iago's plan doesn't go perfectly, and they are both caught and made to answer for their crimes. In this moment, Othello tells the truth and cries out to Iago. He says, "Why hath he ensnared my soul and body?"
Demand this demi-devil why he hath thus ensnared my soul and body.
Iago offers no sympathy, no explanation.
Demand me nothing. What you know, you know. From this time forth, I never will speak a word.
Iago doesn't even utter a single word, continuing to let Othello's madness run rampant through his own mind, causing him to end his own life with regret and sorrow for what he has done. Oh my god, Iago is a stone cold villain, man. Ultimate villainy. Crazy to the end. It's kind of admirable in a way. This play is such a tragedy. It's quite literally one of Shakespeare's tragedies, but it highlights the importance of the inflection point we mentioned. If tension builds up like this but isn't addressed, it can be dangerous, as we see both of them meet their untimely demise. It's really unfortunate because Desdemona had her reflection point. She defended Othello time and time again. She knew the society they were in and put in the work. Act 3, Scene 4, she says, "My lord is not my lord, nor should I know him. If he were in love with jealousy."
My lord is not my lord, nor should I know him were he in favour as in humour altered. So help me every spirit sanctified, but I have spoken for you my best, and stood within the blank of his displeasure for my free speech.
All this could have been avoided with a simple, tough conversation. They would have came out the other side stronger instead of depleted. Othello is a great tale of interracial romance because it shows, one, like we mentioned, interracial love doesn't exist in a vacuum. And two, the most important factor to the success of a union isn't the racist world or family or society. It's the same important factor that exists for all types of relationships. It's trust and communication. I know after my breakdown, you might think Othello is primarily a story of the turmoils of an interracial relationship, but it's more about jealousy and the lack of communication running rampant. There's no doubt these two loved each other, but Othello lets his mind get corrupted by the outside world. instead of having trust and communication with the woman he loves. The biggest antagonist isn't Iago or Venice. We already said most people that matter in Venice supported their union. The biggest antagonist is Othello's own insecurities. How Amor rose to power in the uphill society of Venice, but still let his own personal insecurity ruin him is an interesting duality. I'm sure you can think of times in your relationship where you could have communicated better or had more trust as a partnership. I realized racism wasn't the reason my relationship ended. There was no trust or communication. She didn't trust I wasn't some Detroit con man and didn't communicate to her people that I wasn't either. I didn't trust that she cared about my concern or would ever care. When picking a partner, choosing someone with the same values is so important. What you value is who you are stripped down to the bare bones. And if you don't have to fight about that, then it might be semi-smooth sailing. I had a friend who loved to play video games, and that's all he did. And his girlfriend at the time couldn't stand it. He would always long for a girl who could support his passion, and he did. He's married now to a fellow gamer girl who doesn't put down his passions but uplifts them. Being black is kind of like being a gamer or being an ogre. I can't control what I am. It's just what I am, and I'm proud of who I am. At the end of the play, Othello says, "See me as I am." He says, "Speak of me as I am, nothing extenuate, and nor set down aught in malice, then must you speak. Of one that loved not too wisely, but too well, of not one easily jealous, but being wrought. Speak of me as I am."
In your letters, when you these unlucky deeds relate, speak of me as I am. Nothing extenuate, nor set down aught in malice.
One could stop gaming or change the way they talk, get surgeries, lighten skin, but would that make them happy? Would destroying your entire being as a human make you happy? The answer is obvious. I've dated all kinds of ethnicities. Most of my preferences are internal, like in personality, which supersedes any slight physical preference I might have. I don't discriminate, but I knew when dating a person, I knew I had to find someone who respected who I am. Black. And in my last relationship, I thought that would be good enough. But it made me realize, for me personally, that's just not enough. I need someone whose values align with mine. Someone with moral philosophies I think are admirable. Someone whose family and friends and world orbit can see me as a human being. And they can speak of me as I am. Not by the worldly perceptions they want to attach to me, but me with all my flaws and greatness. And if they don't, I hope a potential partner would fight for that truth at the least. As hurt as I was from the situation, it would have been easy for me to think, okay, I'll never date a white person again. It's not worth it. But I had to inner reflect on my values. If I use one experience with one person to influence how I view an entire group of millions of people, that's textbook definition of what people who cause me so much pain do. Because an ogre was mean to them in high school, or they have a cousin who was robbed by an ogre, or two ogres were loud at a restaurant, or they saw in the news that 30% of ogres commit crime, so all ogres are evil savages. That quick moment of weakness in my thought made me realize how easy it is to slip into that toxic thinking. How, though no romance might not exist in a vacuum, my mind and values can. I can continue to treat every person with respect and not assume anything negative about them. Treat them as an individual, as a human being. Treat them with the respect, care, and innate love I have for all human beings. Shrek, my beautifully green hero, would want me to end on a joke and a prayer. So I just want the world to know I am single, ready to mingle. Now don't discriminate, but I think I would prefer my next partner be an Afro-Latina from the Bronx, New York City. I don't discriminate, but I would prefer she be a queer leftist and does not have a colorist, homophobic abuelita. Inshallah. Amen.
I keep telling you, consciousness over coochie, politics over punani.
Ain't you eyes, oh, make them cry. Ain't your lips,
Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys if you made it this far. If you made it this far, you're part of the tight-knit Video Gaga community. We're 4,000 strong now, and I just want to say thank you guys so much. I was so proud to start this Video Gaga project and knew a lot of fun things could come, you know, funny stuff, introspection, thought, really it all. You know, y'all know I love dramedy, so really everything. And the code word today, if you're new, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, leave a code word at the end of your comment so I know you made it all the way, and I'll respond to it. The code word for this video is alas. So leave alas. And yeah, this has been a fun project. I'm really excited about this video. Like, I hope it does numbers, because I honestly feel like this video can like shift the culture. Like, there would be discourse about this video, which I love. So hope it does well. And Jesus, my name is Nico Swan. I'm a lifelong filmmaker, lifelong film watcher. And if you want to follow me on Letterboxd, it's Nico X Swan. I follow usually the first couple of people back. And if you want to follow my film career or just life or my memes or just me, whatever, me posting, you can follow me on the gram at Nico X Swan. And yeah, subscribe so you can see next week's video, Suburbia and the Impending Doom. I should tell you guys the films I'm going to talk about so you can watch it beforehand. I was thinking about starting like maybe like a movie club, like maybe like a private Discord where we can like, I can give you movies beforehand so you can do the homework and you can know and enjoy the video better. I don't know. I was thinking about putting it under like a Patreon or something, but I don't know. I feel like it's too early. Like, I feel like monetizing your audience, your community too early is kind of nasty. So, but maybe I can still tell you guys the movies to watch, maybe in like comments or something. But anywho, hello friends, Nico Swan of Video Gaga, live from home of the new Pope, Chicago, Illinois. And this is your Shakespeare quote of the day. We got insults, not the love. So we'll flip to one page and we'll give it off to you guys. All right. An adulterous thief, a hypocrite, a virgin violator. And that is from Measure for Measure. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to give a Shakespeare quote of the day, insult or love, hit me up. Thank you guys for watching. Love me and my outro assistant here, Mia. All right, love you guys. Bye.
Over